Rebecca Turner jolted awake, her breath catching in her throat. A strange unease settled in her chest, though she couldn't pinpoint why. The house was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional rustle of wind against the windows. She glanced at the clock, 3:12 a.m. Something felt wrong. Rebecca swung her legs over the bed and stepped onto the cool hardwood floor. Her mind raced as she padded down the hall toward Noah's room. Maybe he had a bad dream. Maybe he had gotten up for a glass of water. She told herself it was nothing, just motherly paranoia. But as she reached his door, a wave of dread washed over her. The door was ajar, just as she had left it, but something about the darkness beyond it felt hollow. She pushed it open further, her fingers tightening around the doorknob. "Noah?" she whispered. Silence. Fumbling for the light switch, she flipped it on. Her heart nearly stopped. Noah's bed was empty. The covers lay crumpled, pushed aside as if he had left in a hurry. His stuffed dinosaur, his favorite, was on the floor. The window was locked. The closet door stood slightly open, revealing nothing but shadows. Rebecca's breath came in short, panicked gasps. She checked under the bed. Nothing. She ran to the bathroom. Empty. Her pulse pounded in her ears as she hurried down the stairs, her bare feet slapping against the cold floor. That's when she saw it. The front door. It wasn't wide open, but it wasn't shut either. It stood slightly ajar, the night air slipping in through the gap. Rebecca's hands trembled as she reached for her phone. Every worst-case scenario raced through her mind. Had he wandered outside? Had someone taken him? Her fingers barely managed to dial 911. The dispatcher's voice came through, steady but distant. 911, what's your emergency? Rebecca's voice cracked. My son is missing. The words felt unreal, like she was speaking them for someone else. But as she stared at the open door, one horrifying thought gripped her mind. Noah hadn't just disappeared. Rebecca's hands trembled as she clutched the phone. Ma'am, stay calm. Can you tell me when you last saw your son? The dispatcher asked, her voice steady and professional. Rebecca swallowed the lump in her throat. I put him to bed at 8:30. He was fine. He was here. Her voice cracked as she turned in circles, scanning the empty living room as if Noah might suddenly appear. The front door. It was open when I came downstairs. I think... She choked back the words. I think someone took him. Officers are on their way now. Stay inside. Don't touch anything. Rebecca barely heard the rest. Her body moved on autopilot as she rushed to check the back door. Locked. The windows? Secure. There was no sign of a break-in. But the front door? She crouched down, inspecting the threshold, a faint scuff mark on the wooden floor, too small to be from her or Noah's shoes. Her stomach twisted. Someone had been here. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights bathed the street outside. The first officer through the door, a tall man with sharp eyes, introduced himself. Detective Daniel Porter, I need you to walk me through everything. Rebecca tried to steady her breathing. I put him to bed like normal. He was happy, reading his dinosaur book. I woke up around 3 and felt something was off. When I checked, his bed was empty, and then... She gestured to the door, voice shaking. I found that... open. Porter studied the doorway, his expression unreadable. You're sure it was closed before? Yes. I lock it every night. He nodded, making notes. Then, turning to another officer, he instructed, check for security cameras on neighboring houses. Rebecca's breath hitched. Cameras, maybe, just maybe. Someone had caught something. As the officers moved to search the house, Porter's radio crackled. A voice came through, urgent. We've got something. Surveillance from a neighbor's driveway cam shows a figure leading a child away from the house. Happened at 2:47 a.m. Rebecca's legs nearly gave out. It means he's still out there, she whispered. Porter met her gaze, his expression grim but determined. We'll find him. But the question wasn't just where Noah had gone. It was why he had left so willingly. Detective Daniel Porter's grip tightened on the printed still image from the neighbor's surveillance footage. It was blurry, distorted by the grainy quality of the night vision camera, but one detail stood out clear as day. Noah was holding the figure's hand. He hadn't been dragged, he hadn't been struggling, he had willingly walked away. Rebecca sat on the couch, clutching a blanket around herself, her face pale and drained. "That doesn't make sense," she whispered. "Noah is shy. He wouldn't just go with someone, not unless he knew them." Porter crouched in front of her, his voice gentle but firm. "Is there anyone he trusts outside of family? A teacher, a neighbor, maybe a friend's parent?" She shook her head quickly. "No, I mean, he has friends, but I'd know if he was this close to an adult." Porter glanced back at the photo. The figure wore a hooded sweatshirt, their face obscured, but something about their posture, the way they bent slightly to Noah's level, suggested familiarity. "Could it be his father?" another officer asked. Rebecca stiffened. "Noah's dad died when he was 3. Porter frowned. "Any chance someone pretended to be his father, someone who looked similar?" She hesitated, fear flashing across her eyes. "No, but Noah did mention something weird a few days ago." Porter leaned in. "Go on." "He said he saw Daddy outside his window." Her voice broke slightly. "I thought he was dreaming. I told him Daddy was in heaven, but he got upset and said, 'No, I saw him. He waved at me.'" Porter exchanged a look with his team. A chill settled in his gut. If Noah had truly seen someone outside his window days before, it meant this wasn't random. Whoever took him had been watching, waiting, gaining his trust. An officer returned from checking the yard. "Sir, we found faint shoe prints in the flower bed outside Noah's window, same size as the marks by the door." Rebecca's hands flew to her mouth. The person who took Noah hadn't just shown up that night. They had been outside his window before. Watching, Rebecca sat frozen, her mind reeling. Someone had been outside Noah's window, watching him, stalking him. The thought made her skin crawl. Detective Porter studied the footprint casts the forensic team had lifted from the flower bed. They were larger than average, likely a man's size, 11 or 12, but the depth suggested something odd. "This guy wasn't just standing here," Porter muttered, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. "He was here for a while, long enough for the soil to compress like this." Rebecca shuddered. "What does that mean?" Porter's jaw tightened. "It means he wasn't just watching, he was waiting." The forensic technician stood and held up an evidence bag. "Found this just beneath the window. Looks like a piece of fabric. Black hoodie, maybe." Porter turned to Rebecca. "Does Noah have any hooded sweatshirts like this?" She shook her head. "No, but he does have a black hoodie with a T-Rex on it. He loves dinosaurs." Porter filed that detail away. He had seen cases like this before, a child lured in by something familiar, something comforting. This abductor knew Noah's interests. The officer who had been reviewing neighborhood surveillance came jogging over, holding a laptop. "We pulled more footage from a house down the street. It's not much, but take a look." Porter, Rebecca, and the other officers crowded around the screen. The footage was grainy, but it showed a shadowy figure walking past the Turner home 2 nights ago, stopping in front of Noah's window for nearly 15 minutes before moving on. Rebecca gasped. "Oh my God, he was here before." Porter nodded grimly. "This wasn't random. This was planned." Rebecca clutched her chest, her breathing shaky. "Why, Noah? Why my son?" Porter looked back at the screen, watching the dark figure disappear into the night. The answer was clear. Because Noah knew this man. Because Noah trusted him. And now they had to find out who he was before it was too late. Detective Porter paced the dimly lit police station, his mind racing. They had a grainy image of the suspect, footprints in the flower bed, and proof that this wasn't random, but they still had no name, no motive, no solid lead. Then an officer rushed in, holding a manila folder. "Sir, we cross-referenced missing persons reports with known offenders in the area. Something came up." Porter snatched the file and scanned it. His pulse quickened. Michael Grayson, a former local school teacher who had vanished 5 years ago, presumed dead. Rebecca's face twisted in confusion when she heard the name. Oh, know him?" Porter frowned. "Are you sure? He taught second grade at Cedar Ridge Elementary. Rebecca gasped. That's where Noah goes to school, but he was never in second grade, he's only in fourth now. Porter turned to his team. Pull school records, see if there's any connection. Minutes later, an officer rushed in, holding a printout. Got something! Michael Grayson was last seen after being dismissed from his teaching job for inappropriate behavior around students. Rebecca's hands flew to her mouth. Noah would have been too young to remember him. But maybe he didn't forget, Porter muttered. He grabbed the grainy surveillance image again. Grayson disappeared, but what if he never left? What if he's been watching all these years, waiting? An alert chimed on the officer's laptop. Sir, we just pinged Rebecca's phone records. She's had multiple missed calls from a restricted number in the past week. Rebecca's breath hitched. I thought it was spam. Porter's jaw tightened. It wasn't. He turned to his team. We need to trace those calls, now. Just then, another officer rushed in, his face pale. We got a hit on Noah's last known location. Porter's heart pounded. Where? The officer swallowed hard. A cabin in the woods, 15 miles outside town. Rebecca grabbed Porter's arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. We have to go, now! Porter nodded. Gear up, we're bringing Noah home. But deep in his gut, he knew this wouldn't be easy. Because if Michael Grayson had been waiting this long, he wouldn't let Noah go without a fight. The SUV's tires skidded on the dirt road as Detective Porter and his team sped toward the cabin. The location was deep in the woods, far from any neighbors or help. Too far. Rebecca sat in the passenger seat, gripping the armrest so tightly her knuckles were white. Please, she whispered, please find my son. Porter's jaw tightened. We will. As the team neared the cabin, they killed the headlights, moving in silently. The structure was small, old, and run down, nothing more than a hunting shack. But inside, a faint glow flickered through the window. Someone was there. Porter signaled to his team. Guns drawn, they approached, their boots crunching softly on dead leaves. He peered through a gap in the curtain, and his heart nearly stopped. Noah. The boy sat in a wooden chair, staring blankly ahead. His small hands were tied in his lap, but he wasn't struggling. Across from him, a man, Michael Grayson. Porter took a slow breath. Grayson was talking, his expression calm, almost soothing. Then Noah did something that sent a chill down Porter's spine. He smiled. Porter didn't wait. Go, he shouted. The team burst in, guns raised. Michael Grayson, hands up. Grayson barely flinched. He turned toward them, his expression eerily calm. You're interrupting, he murmured. He was finally listening. Rebecca ran past the officers, falling to her knees beside Noah. She pulled him into a tight hug, but he barely reacted. His body was stiff, his face distant. Porter kept his gun trained on Grayson. What did you do to him? Grayson smiled, slow and deliberate. I told him the truth. Rebecca shook Noah gently. Baby, we're going home. Noah blinked, his lips parting. Then, in a hollow whisper, he said, But I belong here. Rebecca recoiled. No, honey, no, you don't. Porter stepped forward, his voice low. Grayson, step away from the boy. Grayson tilted his head. You don't understand. I didn't take him. He came to me. Porter's grip on his gun tightened. We're done talking. Grayson sighed. You're making a mistake. Seconds later, officers tackled him to the ground, cuffing him. Noah trembled in his mother's arms. His eyes darted back to Grayson one last time. And then finally he whispered, Can we go home now? Rebecca choked back a sob. Yes, baby, yes. But Porter knew it wasn't over. Because whatever Grayson had told Noah had already taken root.